Hello. So yes, I'm live again just a few minutes before I said I was going to start. So welcome, sit back, bring out the coffee, or rather go and get a coffee refill right now. I just finished my refill, so I think I'm in a pretty good, just getting things set up, make sure that OBS actually shows everything. Look, my terminals are there. I even have a Firefox. I can show a terminal only. And here I am. So good morning. Yeah, so I got my a new stash of stickers yesterday, and it was actually a ridiculous box. I'll show you in a second. So yeah, now I just need to go to places and give people stickers, I guess. I don't remember exactly where I finished on Tuesday's stream, but I did finish up a few PRs. I merged them mostly on Tuesday and then some yesterday, Wednesday. Today's Thursday, and I have a few more things to do. I started a little mission recently I'm going to tell you a little about. And yeah, I can show you some stickers and I don't know what else. We'll see. We'll get to that. If you have any questions or anything, just fire them off in the chat and we'll get to that. And I think I'm going to try to do this in about 2 hours because at 10 o'clock my time now, and at noon it's usually a good time for me to just take a break and take some lunch. And also it keeps you from getting too bored with my blabber and debugging stuff. Maybe 2 hours. Let's see. Let's see what I can do. So we, of course, have bugs reported. I'm not sure exactly what to get into. HTTP fails on 4.16, unable to perform. Well, the Windows build option I'm not going to deal with. Cannot connect to web service, previous version can. This is a last week. I think this is already fixed. Resume to be fixed already. Boom. Also, no response in a week or so, so I figure that is okay. So hello everyone in the chat. I'll just start and go ahead and do my thing, and I'm going to try to talk a little bit about the things I do while I do it. It's a challenge to actually be productive and talk about this stuff at the same time. You feel a little bit like a loony talking to yourself, but yes, but I agree that if they run into it again, they can. I'll just try to not be too eager to close it as probably already fixed, because it's. I don't think people like it when I close them too quickly, in case it actually isn't fixed in master. So I usually give them a little time to actually verify that. But if in case they don't come back, and usually I find that when people submit a bug, they sort of the attention is on the bug right there, right then. And if I ask a follow-up question immediately, like within an hour or two, and the person doesn't respond in a day, that's a very good sign that the person just filed that report and he will not be back at all, or it could easily take forever until that person comes back. So if it goes another week and there's no response, it could easily be, he never comes back, or it could be a half year or something. So it's no use to extend that wait to 2 weeks or 3 weeks, because it's not going to change anything. So after a few days, I can just as well go ahead and act on whatever I want to do on it, because if if they actually still have the problem, as you say, then they'll come back. As you can see in this silly, I showed the chat window in the stream. I tried to do, since I said first, I typed in the chat before I started the stream at the top of it, as you can see here at the top of it. I said it'll start in an hour and then in 20 minutes, and then I tried to use the clear chat function here on Twitch. Chat was cleared by a moderator, it says, but it's not cleared. I wanted to remove my 2 top comments here. Anyway. I talked about this on my other stream. How we fix a redirect thing, and I added a comment about it for Jay, but he didn't respond 2 days ago. So I think maybe I could start out a little easy by merging it's not actually my pull request, it's a pull request, but I actually did it on behalf of Jay because it's Jay's. You get this funny little thing here because Jay wrote the code, so I committed it under his name, and then I made a pull request. So you made a pull request of a patch that Jay wrote. That's why we get this silly double person thing. And if you want to know, I keep on nagging on my GitHub contacts that if I do this kind of doing pull requests on behalf of someone else is not really well supported at GitHub. It seems like it's not really, because I did it for Jay, but it looks like it's my PR, right? So it's a little bit not convenience. Yeah, it's my alter ego. No, that's Jay. He's American. I'm not. Okay, so I'm going to merge this with the typo in the branch. So let's switch to my Emacs and terminal, and here I am. I'm in another branch. I'll show you that branch in a second. So I'm just going to rebase and fix up. I'm going to remove that reopen thing that if you didn't see my stuff on Tuesday, forget about it. I did another attempt to solve this problem differently, but it turned out it wasn't a really good way to do it, so I'm getting rid of that way. Reported by, and as you can see, this commit is still done by Jay. It's not my fix. I'm doing the PR. I did the test case though, so that's the test case I actually wrote. And then let's merge this branch into master. Hey, looks good. Push it on master. Boom. Cannot do that. Haven't rebased. Someone had committed already. Oh, right. The win build fix was merged and the other one. So, okay. So we're getting some annoying spam already. Yeah. Already, I should say. I was a bit surprised because we didn't. I did switch off this shield mode. Maybe I should just enable that again and be. I'm not sure exactly what shield mode does. Let me crop that out from. Yeah, Jay tends to write the entire URL. I tend to go with the shorter version of that. I'm not sure exactly why, but I that's just the way I prefer to do it, just because it makes the commit message sort of less so cluttery, because with a lot of long URLs in the git commit message, I think it gets a little messy. But I'm also fine with writing the entire URL there. So it's if you read, like if you do like me and read it in a terminal, it could actually be better with the URL, because like in my terminal it highlights this URL. I could actually click it and go to that GitHub page, but I cannot do that if I go to like these. This is my style of doing it, so I can't click them. I have to actually go them through GitHub. Yeah, I could add the moderation, show moderation actions like that. Anyway, I should actually give more of you the moderate. So if anyone is sort of volunteering to become moderator on this, is just say so, and I could make you moderators, and we can just clean up these annoying spammers immediately. But they're usually not a big problem. I'm also not entirely sure how to do it, but can I just do this? Here are everyone. Can I just make someone? How do I make? Oh right, I just do it like that. Ah. I'm as you can see, I'm a little bit of a rookie on this Twitch thing, how to do everything. But maybe I'll learn one of these days. So thank you for helping out. I got a little sidetracked there, but okay. Where was I? I did this. I actually merged back. Yes, so I have this, but I didn't push because Git complained. So since we do rebases, so I do a clean history all the time. I don't do any merge commits. So therefore it refuses to merge or push in case someone else has pushed before me. So I need to update. So I pushed that, and then of course over on GitHub it'll say, oops, it closed with unmerged commits, which is true and not true. So I'm just going to delete the branch on GitHub and be happy with it. Yes. Okay. So I wanted to show you. I did this little thing yesterday, and I'm on a little mission to reduce the number of sscanf calls in curl, pretty much, because I think sscanf is a little bit of a it is a complicated function. It's not very fast, and it's easy to do it wrong, and it tends to be a little bit too liberal and match a little bit too much. So I've been slowly going through and investigating where we're using sscanf and replacing sscanf with more dedicated parsing. So one of these, the other day I already merged some stuff where I removed sscanf, and in particular, the other day I removed sscanf from the date parser, I think, and from the cookie parser, and then I did this. When did I do this? I did this yesterday. So the status line parser, that is the first line that you get back from an HTTP server. You know, HTTP 1/1.1 blah blah blah, status code that is 3 digits and it's a reason afterwards, or whatever it's called. File not found 404 blah blah blah. So that parser was done with sscanf, and I rewrote that yesterday to not use sscanf. As you can see, it actually grew a little bit, which is a little bit sad. But without sscanf, it's actually, I would say, we have less. It might not be less complicated, because sometimes one of these sscanf patterns, they can actually be fairly short and short and sweet. And I'll show you. I'll switch to this. So this is my changing of. Maybe I should just show it here instead. It might be a better diff. So basically, on the left side you can see the old version, and on the right side is the new version. So basically, the primary parser is this. So it's an sscanf for HTTP, and then some digits, and it has to verify the separator with a %c, and it has to make sure that it's a 3-digit number. But then we also have to parse the following byte to make sure that that is not a number, because this just parses the first 3 digits, right? So if there are 4 digits, it would just parse the first 3 and be happy with that. We have to actually parse the one following and make sure that that's not a number, so that it's still just a 3-digit number. So it's a little bit ugly, and then we have to check what exactly did it return, and then do various comparisons with that, blah blah blah. It's a little bit of a hairy. I'm not sure my replacement is less hairy, really. It's a little bit of a 4870. So if I go to the new parser, it looks like this instead. Where are we? So now it's much more of this style. Maybe I should just do, yeah. So now it looks like this. It's first, then more manually skip blanks, check if it starts with HTTP/, and then if the HTTP/ is followed by a 1, then it's HTTP 1, then it does this to get everything. If it's HTTP 2 or 3, then we do this instead. So it's more controlled, maybe not easier to read, but it's at least it's going to be faster and less open for other things that sscanf might do. And when it's actually HTTP 2 or 3, of course, we get this translated by ourselves. It's a little bit messy, but we translate stuff internally to make them look like HTTP 1, to make the parsers more generic. So anyway, that's one of my steps to. I also actually removed another kludge. We supported another weirdo thing. Like this. not yes, FTF. I remove this. So we've had support for this since I don't remember exactly when I added this. I guess it might have been in the 90s. So there was a web server once that actually returned HTTP responses like this without any version number and just HTTP and then a 3-digit code. And we have support for that up until now. But I removed that because I figure those servers are not around and we should do it stricter. Well, the old code, but rather I'm going in the direction of rather making things stricter rather than more liberal, right? So even if it previously might have been more liberal and supported crap like accidentally supporting, it actually did not support HTTP 4 before, but it could have accidentally supported like 1.2 or something. It didn't, but still, I'm more nowadays. I'm more and more making things strict so that we're sure that we actually understand the protocol that arrives. So no, if you respond with a HTTP 1.2 or HTTP 4, curl will just say I don't know this protocol and it'll bail out. Yes, it does this little thing. You can see the code is actually, it looks like this. So it is the HTTP version it sets. Let me, if I can highlight it like this in here in the Emacs window. It makes 10 plus the sub version. So it stores the version as 10 for 1.0 and 11 for 1.1. And here it makes 20 for version 2 and 30 for version 3. So that's why we later see HTTP version. So it's actually times 10. So it says case 10, but it's actually 1.0 and 1.1 and so on. Just to make it an easier number to compare with instead of, I don't know, floats or anything. So yeah, that's one of my things I worked on. There is a HTTP version that is commonly referred to as 0.9. That's basically the HTTP version people created, or Tim Berners-Lee created 1989 or something, when he, I don't like to use the term invented HTTP because he created it. What's the difference? Anyway, when he created HTTP, and that was back that initial version of HTTP, I'm not sure you can even call it a protocol. You only send the get and the path and nothing else, and you would get everything back with no headers at all. So there were no request headers, there were no response headers. You just sent a get and you would get something. You couldn't even tell what kind of data you got back. So it was dead simple. Possibly even more simple than Gopher, right? And that's called 0. Sorry, I think you could do request headers, but not response headers. So anyway, sorry about that. So anyway, that's the 0.9. So that's sometimes you see that people refer to that, but there's no difference in sending that request, but there's a difference in receiving it, because when you receive a HTTP 0.9 response, there are no headers. You just get the binary data at once, and it's really a kludge. And curl nowadays will refuse that and say, "Hey, I don't understand this protocol. I'm refusing to get it." So you have to tell curl to accept 0.9. That is, accept contents sent back without any headers at all. Then you don't know what kind of data it is. You just get a binary stream or you get a stream of something. You don't know what it is. So yes, we need to update it for every protocol anyway, because we can't just randomly assume that when we support something, or when someone create a new version of the protocol, even if it would be, it won't happen. But if it would be 1.2, we can't know what that is, so we couldn't just accept that just because someone sends 1.2. What do we know what that is? So we need to actually explicitly support it anyway. So if someone makes an HTTP 4, someone will do that in the future. Then we need to get into the code and add support for that. Right. Yes, I could possibly change this and move up some conditions up there and do the already there, but let's not. So anyway, this is my attempt from yesterday or the day before on removing. Actually, I think I removed 3 sscanfs from the HTTP.c file. So in this branch there is no sscanf left in HTTP.c. As you can see, there are in this branch, when I merge this, there are 15 sscanf calls left in libcurl. It's not a crisis. This is not a big deal. It's just one of these things I just have to work on in the background a little bit. So anyway, I could merge this. Okay. Pull request number. Like that. And it did go through all the test cases properly, at least with my follow-up fix. No, sorry, not. I'm going to merge. There's no fixes, but there is a closes, so boom. Push. And then it's going to say closes somewhere. There. We delete the branch on GitHub. So one down, and then back to what I tried to start mentioning. So so that was fixing that, removing a few scanf calls to make HTTP maybe not simpler, but at least avoiding scanf problems or mistakes, and introducing other mistakes. But so I wanted to do the same thing in FTP.c, because I then noticed, of course, that if I go to back to my grep here, so this is a master branch now, and then you could see here that in FTP there are 3 ones left. So out of the 15 left, 3 are in FTP.c. Why do we need scanf in FTP? Do we really? So I did a thing yesterday. So if I do this, we're down to 2. So this branch then fixes 1 scanf. It looks like this in Firefox, the diff. So as you can see, in this case, it actually removed 9 lines by removing scanf, which of course is nice. Removing code is good. And in this case, I think actually it becomes much simpler. I'll show you. I mean, that's the ePSV is that's an FTP command that and a client sends that to a server to say, open up a port for me so that I can connect to it to get my data. It's the modern version of the PASV, the PASV function, and because the PASV doesn't support IPv6, so that's why I said this is the modern version. Modern being, this was defined like years ago, maybe 25, I don't remember, but a long time ago. So modern it didn't exist in the original RFC 959, but it came later. But this is how to do IPv6 over FTP. So it's fairly commonly used. Curl tries this before it tries the older command. So unless you tell curl otherwise and it supports IPv6, it'll use this. When the server gets this command, it responds. It opens a port on the FTP server and it responds to the client, right? I open this port number. And how does it say which port number it is? That's in this response, right? In the ePSV response. And it looks like this. All right, that's RFC number 2428, and that's also a very low RFC number, right? So you know that it's old. How old? RFC 2428. FTP extensions for IPv6 and NATs from September 1998. So, slightly younger than curl, but just a half year. So, it's not quite 25 years. It's only 24 years and a half. So anyway, look at this response. So this is how it returns the port number by doing, I think the spec says 3 similar characters, then a port number, and the same character again. I have no idea why they decided to do this weird. Why these 3 ones and the one following it? Couldn't it just have the parenthesis? Wouldn't that have been enough? Apparently not. So the parser then have to find the parenthesis on this line. This is a 229, right? And the 229 is a standard thing. It says so in the RFC. When you send an ePSV, when it's successful, it sends back a 229. But in that line here, you have to find the parenthesis, then make sure that there are 3 similar bytes, then a port number, then that of course is a 16-bit number, and then a similar byte again. So those 4 bytes have to be there. So my new parser then works like this. Where are we? ePSV. ePSV to have I even loaded the new one? Here it is. So if the status code is 229, it is supposedly a valid response from the server. Is it really? We find the open parenthesis, and after the open parenthesis, we move past by the parenthesis, and then you're supposed to find 3 similar characters, a port number that is at the most 5 digits, and then the same byte again. I think virtually all servers use this pipe character, but I as I recall it, it's not defined. It doesn't have to be. You could put another byte there. So it verifies if it finds the parenthesis, and the next one is one. It stores the first byte, right? That one, and it verifies if the 2 following ones are the same. So 3 are identical, and then it's followed by a digit. That one. Then it runs str2ul, string to unsigned long, on that string that starts with that digit. And of course this could then be a huge number or a silly number. I had to check for a digit, because for some reason str2ul also supports leading space and a leading minus. Even if it returns an unsigned, it actually supports a leading minus, but we don't want to support that, so we actually check that it starts with a digit, a decimal number digit, and then so this can then only be a decimal, potentially very large number, and we store the ending end pointer, and we verify that the end pointer, that it stopped, was also one of those separator bytes. So we know that the 4 bytes are correct. And then we verify that the number is not well, if it is larger than a 16-bit number, then it's wrong, and we return an error. So if it's not that, we know that we're good. Yeah, and we actually store it like that. Basically to trigger this condition further down. And if everything is good, we store the new port number, we clone the address. Since when you do, the FTP is a crazy protocol, so back the original command I told you it's called PASV. So in that response, it returns with an entire address plus port number in a weird syntax. But when they created the ePSV command, they actually stopped. They don't provide the address anymore. So they only provide the port number. But anyway, that's why we have this support for it. It could have been the address. There could have been a new host because it used to be for that command. So we have a new host, which then isn't a new. That's the host to use when we connect the data connection. Well, long story. But that's the change I did. But now I wanted to go back and see. So there are two more sscanf things in FTP that I wanted to address. So this is a fun one, right? So this is the PASV response. And it's even more crazy. As you can see, these are all examples of the 227 response header. It's not a header in FTP, but it's a response line. And as you can see, they could be in parentheses, but they also exist without parentheses. Just happen to be this format. So I don't know. It could have. I guess it could also potentially be a number here in between somewhere. So we actually have to pattern match through this string to find where the pattern matches. The pattern of 6 numbers, 6 8-bit numbers separated by commas. And if we find 6 8-bit numbers separated by commas, that's the pattern we want, and then we can continue. And potentially then, if we don't find it, that's an illegal line and we bail out and it's an error. But it's such an annoying format so that we have to pretty much run through the string and pattern match every byte position until we match, and then we know it's a match. Because there's no way for us to know otherwise. It could be a number in the text here before, it could be a parenthesis, could be whatever, could be it could be commas too, right? So we don't know. So we have to pattern match the entire thing or not. So this is how it works. Now then, it'll just iterate. Try this position. If it works, it works. Otherwise, we move on, right? So it'll just iterate through the entire string. And if it fails, of course, it goes through the entire thing and it'll end up with pointing to the terminating 0 at the end of the string. And if we ended on the terminator, we will just return this. Or if one of the numbers is too large, it'll also, larger than 255, since these are 8-bit numbers. If any of the numbers are larger than 255, it'll also return error. That's also why it uses %u, since they're unsigned, 0 to 225. My idea is to write a function that virtually does this, but without sscanf. So doing a static bool match PASV numbers, nums. I don't know what to call it really. I could come back. And that should then be a const, and we want to return the fields as maybe 6 numbers. I'm not entirely sure. I'm just, I'm brainstorming my ahead here. So these are right now in separate two different arrays, and I'm thinking maybe I should just put them into one to make it easier. And in this, let's do for I do a little for loop as long as I is less than 6, one for each number. So if it's not the first number, it should be I'm changing the variable to p. If p points to a comma, then we're good. If it's not a comma, we return false. And we advance over it. So it doesn't start with a comma, but all other numbers starts with a comma. That's because it's 5 commas, right, and 6 numbers. And if it's either starts with a comma or not a comma, and then we get a number, and it's a 3-digit, up to 3 digits. And again, I find this function a little bit annoying because it can, like if it's a minus here, this will still accept it, and I think it's fine. So I'll just do this. If it's not a digit, we return a false, just to make it a little strict. So, and we parse the number, and the end pointer will then point to the byte following the number, which should be a comma or the end of string. So if it's like this, if number is larger than 255, then we know it's bogus. It's not a match. If it is, oh, too many number array. Then we store the number in the array, and it's an unsigned character. Or should we use ints? I don't know. What do we have down here? Unsigned ints we have. Let's do them unsigned ints. So there's a typecast, but we know it'll fit in an int because it's a very small number. It can't be larger than 255. So, and then we store it, and we make sure that p is now set to the pointer following the number, and for the next loop then it'll be a comma that we will pass, or if it's not a comma we will fail until we get to the final number, and then it'll be happy, and then we return true. But it means that it'll fill up the array partially if it is a partial match. So we just need to make sure that we ignore the numbers if it's a partial match. But I think it'll be fine. So if we do like this, let's just do this. We scan if yeah, I don't know why people think I'm using Vim. Someone told me on Twitter too. Cool that you're using Vim for, but this is not Vim. And also, someone also said for such a large project, but I don't know. This is not a large project. There's 150,000 lines of code. That's not a large project. This is not a large project. Okay, so this is Emacs. Even if it might not look like that, because I've removed all the, there's no toolbar, there's no menu bar, there's nothing extra craft because I don't need it. I use everything with key bindings and have a few custom commands, and that's fine. So yes. Okay, what did I call the function? It was some silly name. Match passive num. If match passive nums at that point, and here's the array. Can't type. So if it matches, it matches. Then it's fine. If it doesn't match, it'll continue and try the next one. Yes, you're right. I mean, there's a giveaway. You should, if you've used Emacs, there are some definite clues, right? So you should recognize that it is. I guess that if you're, I know that I'm an old fart these days, and not a lot of people are using Emacs anymore. So of course, people are not used to seeing Emacs. So sure, but use whatever floats your boat. So I use this, and so we know that if it went through the entire thing, we know that it failed, and we also already checked all the numbers, right? So we could just do like this. We don't have to check them again. And I've been thinking about this. I mean, this. Yeah, I'll leave it like that. I mean, what I'm thinking is that it's actually checking a little bit too much, right? Because if it checks every point, every position of the string, it will start here, which seems unnecessary, and it'll also continue. If it would say, for example, like this, it would also continue to check every position up until this position, which seems wrong, but such a tiny performance boost, so I'm going to leave that. But hey, Jim, you're an old guy too, so you can tell. Otherwise, you wouldn't use Emacs as sort of a giveaway. Okay, so, and you don't see this on the stream here, but this is actually KDE or Plasma as a desktop, but you don't really see it because I don't show the screen. I show my individual windows just laid out on this thing. So I actually have a bunch of more windows that you don't see. So this is how I want it to be, but now I remove the port thing, so now it's not called port anymore. This is actually now IP, and it's now 4 and 5, like that. Yeah, feels pretty good. What did I forget? First, type correctly. I forgot. Otherwise, ooh, no warnings. It feels like a pretty good attempt. Okay. Of course, how do we know that this is good enough? We don't. Let's run a few FTP tests to see. What do you say? What obvious thing did I forget in my first take? Feels a little bit too easy, right? Shouldn't just work on the first attempt. Something is suspiciously missed out. looks good, right? And it's okay. Admittedly, this probably uses pretty much the same string all the time, since it's the same test server and also the same IP address. It creates a new connections, right? So there's a new port number at least for every of these attempts. So we know that the port number gets exercised, or I mean, so we know that it, and since the port numbers are the last two numbers of this string, it seems to be a pretty good indication that we're probably okay. Just going to look over the code again. So 6 numbers. It's a bit hard-coded. Maybe I should just put it in the function name as well to make it even more explicit and noticeable. So yes, and it'll return false immediately if it fails to parse the correct number, or if it is only IPv4, but that's because, you know, look at this. This is how it does. So this is, if you do the PASV command, it only supports IPv4. It comes from RFC 959 from that, talk about an old RFC. I should actually know from how old it is. It's from October 1985, and it's a golden RFC. Here it is, and you can also see the age on this RFC by the format, because it's a very ancient format. By the time in the 1990s they actually refreshed it, so you can really tell by the look that it looks really old. So this is the primary FTP RFC. Still today, this is the primary RFC for FTP from October 1985. They didn't think about IPv6 then, and it didn't do things for IPv6. So IPv6 then was in this RFC 2428 from September 1998. 13 years later, and then this supports, but that's why they have two different commands to do. Do you want to do the modern one that supports IPv6? But still today, you will find a ridiculous amount of FTP servers that actually don't support the IPv6 command. So we have to do that fallback all the time. Try the modern command. If it fails, try the old command and go with IPv4. Which then, of course, that assumes that you actually connected over. No, it does. Well, it's a mess, because if you connect over IPv6 and you do a PASV, you get a connection, you get a mixed IPv family FTP. I don't think curl supports that. I think it actually requires IPv4 on the control connection to do an IPv4 on the data connection. Even that's not necessarily. I don't think the protocol actually says that we have to do that. But FTP is actually a protocol that is slowly dwindling away and dying. I mean, it will never die completely, but at least I get very few questions and bug reports on FTP these days. So I think that's an indication that it's actually going away over time, at least. It didn't die, because we ask people every year, right, in the annual curl user survey, and FTP is still on the top 10 list of protocols that curl users are using. It is probably slowly dwindling away. So as you can see, a lot of FTP tests going through, and still just, I got a much faster machine, but the curl tests are still slow. They're much faster now, but slow. So this took me 4 minutes, almost 5 minutes to run through those. How many ever tests? It did. There, 257 FTP tests. Yeah, we should make them faster. Some of them, we talk about this regularly. About every year, someone brings up the topic of making them faster, and we could run more. We could run tests in parallel, and since a few years, there's really nothing that stops us from running more things in parallel. Except of course, when something goes wrong, it'll be more challenging to figure out exactly. But sure, we could use, and these days everyone has many cores, so we could easily run, I don't know, 5, 10 at the time. That would make them faster. Okay. So it seems to work, and it grew to 19 lines, right? No big surprise, maybe, since this sscanf that we replace is very compact. And this is not as compact. FTP replace sscanf for parsing. Okay. And there, back to my grep again. Grepping sscanf. Oh, well, you can see there were 5 in HP, so this branch doesn't have that. I could maybe rebase everything like that, and then the HTTP ones disappeared. So there's one left in FTP. I wanted to do that now, so that I can just as well do this and then push an update to the pull request. Remove that. So 2 clean commits to replace sscanfs. Right, there are, and I think there are some that are, I think, easier than others to fix. Telnet has 3 of them, and in this case, I mean, this one seems to be pretty easy and unnecessary to do with sscanf. This one looks a little, and I guess these examples are pretty much why I want to maybe go and remove sscanfs, because I think very few users can actually understand what this actually does. What does it do? And I guess H here means short, so it actually gets a short unsigned number, and then it gets another one, a hex number, but it doesn't store it, and then it gets another short unsigned number. But also, sscanf tends to somehow skip white space every now and then too, without it being very clear in this. So yeah, so I think I haven't identified any particular problems yet with any of these sscanfs, so I'm a little bit, touching. I'm ruining things that I haven't found any problems with, but I suspect that one of these actually have a problem. And I rather just, over time, this one by one, just replace them with something that is more explicit, and so that we know that we parse exactly the way we want to parse them. So this one is, of course, another one that is a really compact thing that will be impossible to re-implement as compact when we remove sscanf, but it's still a fairly this is a very easy one to parse, right? Since it's strictly 4 digits, 2 digits, 2 digits, 2 digits, 2 digits, and we can ignore the fractions of a second part. So again, I'm going to make another little function on top. FTP to 213 date. So how do I do this? Fourteen digits. Oh right, yes. So it gets the date and it writes it in a new format, which the new format being one that we can then parse. And when we parse it, we can then output this header, for example, and we can also store the time and date of the file there. Well, you're welcome, and welcome to this stream. I realize it's not always very exciting, but you can just put it on the side, get another coffee. I think I should also get another coffee. Are you ready for my, I haven't used my coffee break scene here in OBS in a while. So are you ready? Here's a, well, I've been programming, well, in the industry. I actually got my first computer, Commodore 64, in 1985. And in the 1985, I learned how to program BASIC. I actually semi-knew BASIC already before I got the computer because I had friends with them and I sort of went over to their houses, and I was 14 at the time. And then I learned to program in my young mid-teens, and I always found it fascinating. But I've been working, so that I've got my first professional developer job when I was 23, 22 actually. It was in 1993. So I started working as a developer then. So I've been working, 30 years as a professional developer by now. But hey, keep asking questions. I'm going to head out and get a little coffee refill, and that will make my function here much better, I'm sure. So, and you get to enjoy my coffee break scene here because I like it so much. Nice, huh? That was fun. Okay, so now this is sort of an intermission here before I continue with that code, because now I have my cup of coffee. Cheers, everyone. I suppose everyone got a refill. No matter what time zone you're in. Yes, and I brought some stuff here. So I brought up the bigger camera because I wanted to show you. So first of all, of course, I mentioned before, and maybe you didn't see that, but their curl turns 25 on March 20, right? That's in not so many days, 27 days, I guess, or something, or less. I can't count. Anyway, it's hard. Yeah, actually, I should have another mug. I should have brought this mug. I'll show you the better mug, but it's in plastic. Look, this is what I really should have done, because it's a curl contributor thing. That's contributor here, the little thing. This is what I should, but this is a plastic one. This is my giveaway. I'm not a contributor. You should meet me at some point. I could give you this if you're a contributor. Actually, we have many more of these somewhere. So I'll send them to some. They're actually manufactured in the US. So I've sent a bunch of them to US people, because it's much easier and cheaper for the US people to send them to the US. Anyway, I was going on about curl 25, and because curl turns 25, I bought this. Ooh! So I just wanted to show you what I'm sort of preparing for the celebrations. As a 25-year-old Bowmore single malt whiskey. So I'm going out to open that on that live stream. I'm going to do a open Zoom meeting something on March 20. You're all welcome to join. I'm going to do that in the evening of that March 20. It's a Monday. So I'm going to start at 6 p.m. 1800 European time. So then I'll open the whiskey. We have a good time. I might do a little presentation, depending on how many. If anyone ever even want to join, I don't know. If we're too many or too few, it doesn't matter. I'll be there. I'll open something like this, maybe. But I wanted to do it more interactive, so not just me streaming and talking into the void, but more of a meeting something. Yes, yeah, exactly. I'm doing the release in the morning, because I'm going to follow my morning style of doing the release. I'll do the release morning my time, and I do the release video presentation also then on that day, and then top it off with a birthday celebration stream meeting Zoom something in the afternoon, and then I have my and the most important part is then my whiskey, because I haven't opened it yet, and I will do that then. And I wanted to show you what I got yesterday. That's why I brought up this video now. Look, so I was at FOSDEM like a month ago now. No, several weeks. And FOSDEM was a little bit of a crazy curl stickers wise, because there seemed to be a really unstoppable demand for curl stickers. I think I gave away easily over 1,000 stickers. Basically all my stickers I've had. I brought all stickers. I brought all my curl stickers to FOSDEM, and I gave them all away. So I don't have any stickers left, or didn't have any stickers left until yesterday. Look at this, baby. So now, and not only stickers now, look at these nice coasters. Because I ordered coasters previously, and I really liked them, and apparently a lot of others did too, because the only ones I had I gave away immediately because someone asked for them, and then I haven't had any coasters for a while, and now I ordered a lot of them, so now we have many more coasters. So I don't know exactly what to do with them, but I'm going to give them away to anyone who wants them when I meet up. So I'm going to, they're much bigger than stickers, so I have to carry around more stuff when I go somewhere. But I wanted to show you my so I have these. These are the maybe more the classic ones, the curl logo, and I had them in different sizes. the slightly smaller one and the bigger one. They're nice. I think they're nice. I like our logo, and I think the stickers are pretty cool. And so I also have these and just a symbol, but it also exists in the, as they call, the die cut thing version of the sticker. And I have these ones. They're fun. Just tiny curl symbols. Just I don't know, 2 centimeters across. So just for smaller place. And I have these oval ones. Also fun. I have what do I do? I have more. And yes, the new ones. The new sort of limited. I have these ones. Can you curl it? Fun. I haven't had those before, and I ordered them in a slightly fewer versions because I'm not sure exactly if what people like or not. And of course, my new fun stickers, also a limited edition sticker. Look at this. Yes, we curl with an image of me and the curls symbol on it. I'm not sure exactly about these, but anyway, we have them now, or I have them, and it's a huge box of them. It's actually about 5,000 stickers in this box, you know. So I'm going to, you know, like this. A lot of stickers. I'm going to make some photos of them and put them on the blog because it's just so fun. And it's right, this kind of box with things. Fun. Yeah, I could fill up another FOSDEM. I think this could last even more than one FOSDEM. I haven't really decided on how to do that with stickers and sending them, because it turns out it's quite a big of a job to send stickers. I'm not sure everyone followed me, but last year or whenever I don't remember exactly when it was. I had a good idea to send out stickers to anyone who wanted it. So I opened a poll, one of these, just a form for 24 hours. Submit your address here and I'll send you stickers. And I got over 1,000 requests all over the world. And it turned out to be a lot of work to send 1,000 people stickers. So I'm not sure I'm going to do it like that again, because it took me many hours to, just do all the administration and just sort it out, and envelopes and stamps and blah, blah, blah. And people cannot enter their addresses in a sensible way. So I have to sort of research X% of the addresses. I had to research. People don't even enter country. When I ask people about enter your postal address where to send the stickers, how many do you think don't even enter their country name in their postal address? So you learn something. Never just ask for, in a text field, enter your address here, because it doesn't work. People just won't enter a sensible address. So if I ever do this again, like that, I have to reconsider my method. So I haven't really done that. So I don't know. Right now I don't know how you can get these stickers other than being where I am. So if I go to conference, hit me up, or if you meet me at a talk, hit me up and I will give you a bunch of stickers. So that's it for now. Otherwise I'll need to figure it out. You could also, but I got a fair amount of stickers back because people had provided me with bad addresses too. So and that's a little bit sad, I think. So I have to spend money and time and effort, and then X% of the envelopes I sent out, they couldn't reach the destination anyway because reasons. Annoying. I mean, for everyone, it's a little bit sad also, because I did promise to send stickers and then I couldn't fulfill that promise because I couldn't understand how to deliver them to people. I sent stickers to like 75 countries, including pretty much every continent, and yes. Yeah, but I could do, payment maybe, but payment is also difficult. I don't need the money. These stickers are paid for by the curl project, and the curl project gets sponsorships from companies, right? So it's not. I haven't spent my personal money on this. This is curl project stickers. So it's not really a matter of costs. It's a matter of administration and time, I think. So I'll need to work on that. I maybe I could do it if someone, exactly as you say, if you're an organization, if you run a hackerspace, or if you promise to give it out to at least 10 of your friends, maybe I could send batches to people as a sort of larger packages. And that's what I ended up doing last time anyway, because a lot of people volunteered to deal with this sticker situation in their countries. So for many countries, I just sent a bunch of stickers to a single person who then distributed the stickers into their countries, which helped me a lot because it did make it more of a hierarchical exercise rather than me sending to all those 1,000 people. And I also employed my kids a little bit to do some of the work. Putting stickers into 1,000 envelopes, or close to 1,000. Took a few hours. And I wanted to, 2, 3, 5 stickers to everyone. I spent a lot of stickers on that one too. This curl sticker distribution protocol turned out to work in the end, and I was very grateful to all the people that could help out, because otherwise I think I would have maybe not died, but died a little bit inside. Okay. So that's a little the coffee break intermission. Yes, and I'm also, since I got, this is one of my laptops. This is actually my curl laptop, as you can see. Is actually the one I use only for video conferences. But now I have two new. These are old stickers, right, from old batches. So now I have two new designs. So do you think I should I just add them here as well? Because it could be, it's a sort of a demo. These are all the stickers. Actually, I've had other designs as well in the past that are not here. I wonder where. I actually had one that was pretty cool, more of a style of these. Oh, there it is. I have. I'll need to show you. Where's the camera? This one is fun. I don't have this anymore. It says inside. What does it say? Powered by. It says, like one of these little things. Yeah, hard to get a focus on that. I haven't. I don't have those anymore. Maybe I should. Maybe I shouldn't. I don't know. Curl is finished every night. I'm finished. We'll as anything that is modern and keep up with the reality, nothing is ever finished. Curl will never be finished as long as there are users, as long as internet keeps evolving. So will curl. So yes, as long as it actually it has users and it's sensible, it will continue to be updated, modified, and changed. I mean, the internet and how we do transfers keep changing quite a lot, and we have to update curl to keep up with how the internet and how others are doing internet. Curl is, what is quantum proof? You need the post-quantum support for post-quantum ciphers, pretty much, and that's a TLS thing. It's not really a curl thing. Well, curl uses TLS, right? So in for HTTPS, but so to go quantum safe, you would use a TLS library that is post-quantum sort of safe or knows the post-quantum ciphers. So sure, yeah, that's quite easily done. In wolfSSL, for example, we support it, and I've built curl to support the post-quantum algorithms, so it's easy to do that. So you just have to make sure that you do. Make sure that you use the proper TLS library, and then you're fine. And post-quantum might sound a little bit sort of, why do you care? I mean, quantum computers and all that, they're not really that far along yet. But if you want your secrets to survive a really long time, so you maybe, if there's going to be a potential capable quantum computer in 10 years, then you need your secrets to survive those 10 years and maybe a little bit longer. So if your secrets need to survive for 30 years, then you really need to consider them, the post-quantum question. So that's, I think, I would say the primary reason why you would consider post-quantum algorithms today. And you can do that. I've talked a little bit about it before. I did a webinar on how to do it. I talked about it before. So yes, if you collect data today, once the quantum computers become powerful enough, you might be able to crack them, if the theory holds out and everything. So back to my parser here. Year, month. Maybe I should split it up like this already in this function. So year is a 4-digit number. How would I convert it to and it could potentially be terminated anywhere. Right, so first maybe I should just check the length of it. Like this. If len is less than 14, it's not a match. Then we don't have a time. But if it's is 14 or longer, we know it's fine. And then the year is I'm not sure. It's actually like this. And then 3 more digits. Like this, right? Well, at least it's pretty easy. Well, talking about the algorithms, I mean, the TLS libraries bound to implement, supporting those algorithms. So the TLS library authors are probably busy implementing them. I know the people at my colleagues at OpenSSL are busy implementing support for at least the. They've had competitions on which ciphers, the winners, the NIST and everything, the big organizations, which algorithms they are going to recommend and so on. So the winners in those competitions are most likely to be the ones that people are going to use. So I know those algorithms are algorithms that people will implement. I'm not going to implement them because I don't do TLS. I use TLS libraries. I don't write TLS libraries. So then we can just okay. 2-digit from P times 100 plus 2 digits at P2. Blah, 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 2 digits everywhere. Yeah, I think this might actually be at least quite readable. You can quite understand it. Could possibly do a loop over all 2 digits after the 4 digits. Not sure it's worth it. And this sscanf actually doesn't verify that it's the correct, that it's actually valid date or hours, or so maybe I could check if month is too big or hours are or I can do like this. Well, I don't need to check for negative numbers because of the way I do it like this, right? So this is just going to be a number, the ASCII numbers to decimal numbers conversion, right? So if there's a minus or anything weird in here, it'll just turn out to be really, really weird numbers. So then it'll bail out when I do. So I wanted to do it like this, so I'm assigning so. And then I can do if, for example, month is, and I think this month is 1 to 12. So if month is larger than 12, for example, or hour is larger than 23, or day is harder, but day cannot be larger than 31 at least, and minute can be only 60. A second can be 60, right? So if second needs to be larger than 60. So if any one of those are, that's not a match. That's a bad date. Leap years, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's not. This is. By no means it's going to be a full, check that is actually valid date, because that's really complicated, right? Leap years, leap seconds. February only have 28 or 29 days. It's so this is mostly just a way to catch really bad input. As you can see, it didn't have any of that before. It just checked 2 digits numbers, zero based. So if you this is a string provided by an FTP server. It has no reason to lie, and even if it's a malicious one, you could return a bad date, but this is a way just to detect really bad input, not to fully validate that it's a correct date. Let's do like this, where I am. If FTP 213 date. Oh, wait a minute. I am undoing a little bit because I can. Just wanted to do this. FTP 213 date. Remove that, and I get all of those. So pretty much like that. So if this parses okay, I get the numbers in all those variables, and then we're good. This is UTC. This format in 213, this comes from another FTP RFC. If I recall this correctly, yeah, it's for the MDTM command. It's another FTP command. It's also not in the original FTP RFC, so it comes from some other. I mean, I would newer than RFC 959, but also probably 25 years old or 23. So it's, but also another one of those commands that is not always supported by servers, even less, I think, than ePSV. I did that wrong. It should be like that. Index 0 times 100, and then the second 2 digits we just add it. Passing argument 1. Let's do it with a const. Exactly. Yes, that's the complaint. So 213, and then you wonder what kind of tests do we have for 213, and do we even have one that verifies silly 213 responses? These are at least 213 responses. So there are a few. I don't think they actually do some very good negative testing. So maybe I should do that, but let's. I'm just going to rebuild the tests and everything to make sure. Git grep is awesome, actually, since it only grabs stuff that's in Git and not all the other random crap you have put in the local directory. Like this, I have all sorts of weird stuff and a funny coloring that makes them hard to read. But anyway, git grep then only grabs the Git files, and it does it recursively by default based on the path you're in, which I think it's really convenient. So like if I switch into the library source code, I can git grep for stuff that is only within libcurl, and so or I can go to the tests and I can go only grep the same thing but within tests. And of course, when I, for example, care about scanf. I don't care about scanf in the tests. So therefore these, I mean, these are perfectly fine. They're just for tests. Tests are just tests, right? So now I wanted to run, and sometimes I do, like sometimes I just disable Valgrind, because Valgrind makes the tests run so much slower. So if I just disable Valgrind in the test, they run like 3 times faster. So, and in this particular case, since this is now validating or using my new parser, if my parser goes wrong, it should immediately display in the output anyway. So I don't need Valgrind in my initial test, at least. Maybe I should make this a little bit more compact, like that. So it seems to work. Of course, I didn't really check now exactly which of these tests are actually getting the MDTM responses, but at least no one has complained so far. And I mean, you know, I'm running these tests a little bit sloppy like this locally, but I'm going to make a pull request of this anyway. Or there's already a pull request, but I'm going to extend that pull request, and so all the CIs that run all these tests will be run on all sorts of platforms and configuration differences anyway. So it's going to be verified, and you know, I'm going to run all the code analyzers, and the torture tests on this are also going to run. So they are going to be validated even more than just my casual, you know, quick invokes here. And yeah, as you can see, doing them without Valgrind now took 138 instead of 4, whatever it was before. So yeah, roughly 3 times faster. FTP replace scanf for MDTM 213 response parsing. And again, that inserted a lot of code, deleting very little code. But scanf has to be a monster internally to just do all that. Wait a minute, wasn't there another scanf also? No, yes, that was the last FTP one. So I rebased this and did things, so I need to force push when I update the. I already have the. This is already a pull request, so I'm just extending it with 2 more commits, and I squashed the fix up, so now there are 3 separate commits in this pull request. This one. So now it's just make less use of, since now it's actually 3 different ones. So totally plus 64 minus 30, not too bad. Yeah, it's not really a big problem, but over time I'm just a little bit annoyed that scanf tends to parse a little bit more than we think. I mean, it eats white spaces, for example, in many places when you don't really think about it, especially around %s, and it makes some of the solutions a little bit quirky, and it's hard for people to understand what it does. So and it's slow. So it's more of a precaution and a gut feeling that I think maybe there's some problems with our use of scanf somewhere. So I'm just sort of going through it and removing it, because I have this feeling that it's not a good thing for us to use this like this, maybe somehow, somewhere. And in some places it was actually really, I mean, for some parsing it's actually pretty bad. We did parsing, we parsed the cookies, for example, with sscanf. And that's really bad because we do 4K, you could do 4K names and 4K content in cookies. So you actually had to do, we had to have two buffers on the stack, 4K each, and we had to read the entire contents of the cookies into those buffers and have those pretty much copying the name and the value of the cookies just to manage them. And that was sort of an unnecessary. We don't have to do the copies. We don't have to do local 4K variables on the stack just to parse cookies. So stuff like that. So, but in general, it's not a big problem. It's more of a bad feeling in my stomach about this. So I wanted to just make it the parsers more strict and have more control over exactly what they're doing, and then also in most cases much faster. But most of these things are just done like once per response or something, and then of course nobody will ever notice if anything runs faster or not, because it's going to be near instant anyway. I have this long-going conversation with a guy who's rewriting, well, he's writing a new URL parser he proposes for Node.js. So I have repeated discussions on how to do URL parsers faster. The curl URL parser is not as fast as his parser is, but I'm pretty fine with that. I mean, there's a limit to how much you can work on polishing URL parsers, right? On any parser. How fast can you make a parser? I mean, there's never any real end, right? You can pretty much always polish away a little bit more, especially if you have it dedicated. If you want to, you know, I want to parse exactly this URL faster, then you can make sure that all this, you know, default selections is there. The URL parser is in. Let me show you. I have the wrong display here. The URL parser is here. It's in the lib/URL API. URL parsing is not hard as long as you maybe I should just qualify that and say URL parse. You have to decide what a URL is, right? Because it's a mess. URLs are not whatever you think or whatever anyone says. URLs are not standard. So there's nothing that is called URL, and therefore you know what it is. You have to sort of, a URL, what's your opinion of a URL? What do you think a URL is? And then maybe we can work it out. What is actually a URL today? And if you talk to the browser people, they change a URL every now and then. So it's a living standard. So it means that what's a URL from their point of view, a URL from 5 years ago is not a URL today because they changed the spec since then. And from my point of view, a URL should have been defined a long time ago, and we should all know exactly what it is, and we should, you know, this is a URL, this isn't a URL, because if it doesn't follow the standard, it's not a URL. But that's not how life works. So for curl, nowadays we support the old URL. Yes, it's a long rant actually, but I'm trying to keep it down. So so now a URL is pretty much what curl did support back in the day, but we've extended it a little bit because the way browsers do it, they have allowed more variations. And since browsers do it, people will use those URLs when they go to curl, and they expect curl to work with those as well, which we do a little bit on and off. So we support RFC 3986 URLs, when I call it usually 3986 plus, because we support a little bit extra. Anyway, we have already pretty much decided how we parse URLs. So we have a pretty extensive set of tests. So pretty much, if you can make the URL faster and the tests still go through, right? Then it's a win, because then you made it faster and we still parse the stuff the same way. So it's actually pretty. Now you can just go to this code, you know, and you can go. I think it's called parse URL. This is the function that parses a full URL from the beginning, right? So it expects a full URL, and it'll just parse it and split it up in all the different components. All the components are allocated and stored separately. So that's pretty much what the parser has to do. Identify all components that are in the URL and allocate them into the separate components. And sure, if you can do this faster than it does now, then it's better. But if you can't, then it's good as it is. And there are also some conditions then that we need to be able to, for example, I think it's pretty good that we can return fairly good return codes. For example, the return codes for the parser actually identifies roughly what the problem is with the parser, with the URL. If you pass in, and you accidentally do an error somewhere in the URL, we will actually return different return codes for where that particular error is in the URL, not just a binary 0, 1, good, bad, but it could actually say there's a problem with the host name, there's a problem with the port number, there's a problem with something else, to help the user understand why doesn't it like this URL, and here's why. So those return codes will also, of course, be defined behavior in libcurl now, since we have a library function call for parsing, so we can't easily change that. So there are some conditions. So you can make the things faster, but you still have to comply with the old behavior. And I've done it slightly faster over the last 2 years maybe, but it is fairly fast. It's not as fast as this. I think it's called Ada, the parser. If you're interested, I can probably even dig up a if you're interested in looking at his parser, it is in this Ada URL /Ada. And it actually has this benchmark page. I'll show you because it's fun. I bet I can find it like this. Benchmarks like this, where he compares. I'm not sure exactly how he compares it or exactly what it compares, but he has some test suite or benchmark suite, and it counts how fast he runs the test in nanoseconds. So and he has some variations, one with copy, one with move. I have no idea what that means. And then he has the same thing. I think he throws the same URLs onto the to the curl parser, and then you can see it's pretty much 8,000 compares to his 5,000. So according to this, curl is 6,000. So according to this, curl is what, 30% slower. I don't know. We don't parse the same URLs either, because he's making what W working group URL spec. So he tries to follow the browser way of parsing URLs, which is not compliant with the curl way of doing. So they actually don't parse the same way. For example, there is a C++ thing, so you can check it out. I cannot quite say that I like the code. Maybe that's sticking out my chin a little bit, but it's, you can look at this parser. It looks like this. And we can all have different opinions on how to write code and how to do things, but I'm not a fan of this kind of code. I mean, it might be fast, but it's certainly not easy to read. And yes. And I'm not convinced that you need a new project, a new parser, just to make it faster. I would say that you could just improve the existing parsers, and then you would be more certain that it wouldn't introduce any new side effects or stuff. Anyway, he's very into improving the parser speed he has proposed this. I'm not sure exactly how far along and what's the progress is there, but this is a proposed replacement for the parser in Node.js. And apparently, according to this pull request that proposes this for Node.js, it sort of sped up Node.js a lot. I don't know how, but apparently then by that logic, Node.js does a lot of URL parsing. I don't know why it would do that just by, normally, but I have no idea what they're doing or anything. So I just found it interesting. I basically I wanted to, maybe if he had some cool tricks that we could learn from and adapt that into the curl parser and get the curl parser faster thanks to his cool tricks. But then I read that C++ code and basically I got all cross-eyed and it seems so very, very hard-coded, dedicated things for some particular solutions that I haven't found any particular good tricks. I think I'd used some tricks because, for example, it turned out that by, for example, just checking that if the path in the URL is just a slash, hostname slash, nothing else, we could exit the parser faster. And he told me that and said, sure, we can do that. It's a quick check. And then we could just skip 5 other checks or just checks that we did. So in case there's a path, in case there's a fragment, in case there's a query part, blah, blah, blah. And then, yes, you could in those cases save 25 nanoseconds. And yeah, sure. But does anyone care? Yeah. So I just did some other of those just cleanups. In one case, I did another, when I actually fixed another sscanf thing the other day, I just noticed that we did pretty much verified IPv6 addresses twice in the URL parser. And that was a little bit silly. Why would we do that? Because it's just slow. Why would you do it twice? We did it once when we extract the port number from the IPv address, from an IPv6 address hostname. And we did it again when we sort of verified the hostname. No point in doing that. We could just do it once. So slightly faster. But in the grand scheme of things, nobody will ever notice unless you have a machine that you just only parse URLs. But it's fine, I think. I'm pretty satisfied with the parser actually. It is pretty fast as it is. I've run some tests on it and I don't know how to compare. I haven't bothered to compare against anything else. I've just make sure that it runs really fast. It uses very few allocations, sort of the minimum amount. It still needs to do a fair amount of allocations because, as I said, it needs to split it up and do separate allocations per component. So it needs to do basically, if you have all the components in a URL, it has to do 10 allocations to store the components of a URL. But exactly, maintainability is critical. So I really, we really cannot sacrifice maintainability just to cram out 20 nanoseconds in an edge case. Why would we do that? Nobody will ever be happy with that, except perhaps some benchmarking running things, and you could put that. That's again, I didn't mention that, but that's also some sort of academic paper in the pipeline there. So sure. If you spend a year and you write a paper on it, you can write your own parser and it'll be faster. Will it be more maintainable? Will it have all the features? Will it run everything? So a few days ago he showed a trick he did to improve his IPv6 address parser, for example. And then it turns out he doesn't even parse the zone ID part of the IPv6 address. And what is that, you might think? Yeah, it's an annoying thing they put into the IPv6 address in another RFC where they specify how to specify IPv6 addresses in URLs. And sure, the browser people took that out, but for us who stuck to that already before, we have a zone ID potentially in IPv6 address fields in host names that we need to recognize and extract correctly, and we do. But it sort of also goes back to, sure, then we cannot compare parser speeds, right? Because his parser doesn't get that part, our parser does. So apples and oranges, really, I think. Well, we could avoid allocations in that possibly that we could do one allocation and put all those parts in one allocation. But when we have an API that then a user can ask for a particular component, right? I only want the host name, and then we return that as a single chunk of memory, and that you free that when you're done with it. So you get that as a single allocation. So we still need to provide that in the API when extracting the components later. I made that decision when I created the API. I think it's a pretty convenient API. So I went with API convenience also as a sort of a factor here, and not balances and trade-offs, right? So maybe if we wanted to make the parser a tiny bit faster, we could have done the API differently. But I also wanted it to be a convenient API so that applications wouldn't, feel awkward, or it would be inconvenient or easily misused, the API. So, a lot of trade-offs. The API has to be convenient, easy going, so that people can use it, want to use it, and when they use it, they shouldn't do any obvious mistakes that makes things trip up or introduce problems or security issues or whatever. Curl, I never had any C++. I never wanted any C++. I don't like C++. And back in the day when I started curl, I basically didn't even know C++. I'm not sure I even know C++ today. I've coded a lot of C++, but so I'm always been a fan of the much simpler, much cleaner C, because it's back in those days it also didn't grow all the time, which it of course does nowadays. But I've stuck with C89 in curl partly because of that. And also when we created libcurl, which I pretty much did in the summer of 2000, well, my summer then. So we released libcurl for the first time in August 2000. So I already before that had an idea about creating a library out of it. But then I did a library out of it. And back in 2000, you couldn't even do C++ libraries with a fixed naming stuff. So C++ was really out of the books already by then. Already then for other reasons, also for technical reasons. So, and there was no point. Why would I use C++? And really, even today, why would I use C++? It wouldn't introduce anything good. No. My primary objections with C++ is that it's sort of people cannot stop themselves from using all the crazy stuff C++ has and offers. So it grows and becomes an unreadable mess the second you allow C++, because people go crazy. They think overloading and objects and inheritance, that's the best stuff. And then you suddenly get this, you have no idea which code is doing what, because everything is inheriting everything from everywhere, and it becomes really, really hard to follow and read. It might be good for really, really big projects and for hiding logic from other parts, but when you don't want to hide logic from other parts. You want to understand all the logic. You want to understand who's doing what and why. I mean, for high performance, for understanding everything, then I think C++ is usually just counterproductive. That's my particular view, of course, and everyone is free to have their own opinion. But I like sticking to C and exporting. And, I can do things object-oriented if I feel a need to do that with C as well, just, returning pointers or function pointers or pack pointers and use them C++ like, but I don't have overloading, I don't have inheritance, I don't do things like that. And as a follow-up, then I also rarely suffer from the same performance punishments you get in C++ when you accidentally do things that you have to, do tables and stuff at runtime because suddenly you did some weird stuff that people don't actually know. Gets a big runtime punishment. So, but the primary reason actually being that I don't need C++. I don't think C++ would help curl at all. So, and also, back also from the beginning, the portability reason. That's also the reason I often go back, talk about not writing curl in other languages is keeping it in C also makes it extremely portable, and that's one of the reasons why it is still extremely portable and why it has been ported to, so many different protocols. It's because it's C, and it's C89, classic old, very conservative C. I think, sure, for beginners, doing some stuff might be easier in C++ in C, but sure, C++ for beginners is also much easier for them to shoot themselves in the foot and go overboard with all the crazy stuff that you shouldn't use in C++. And one of my sort of big grievances when I worked at Firefox with Mozilla is that every once in a while, when they shipped a new version of C++ standards, and then suddenly someone would say, hey, now we can use this new C++ version in Firefox, and half the Firefox team would say, yay, finally, and then a lot of code was suddenly introduced, and suddenly you have to learn a new crazy way to do the same thing, but now you could do it with just 4 lines of C++ instead of the previous 7, because now you could write it with some new crazy keywords that nobody had ever heard of before, but now you can do that with the new C++ version 17, 20, 23, or whatever. And I don't like that either. So I stick to this old thing that I don't know, we all know. Readability, maintainability, simplicity. We know exactly what we return. We know the pointers we return. We know the tables we have. Yeah. So a long rant there, but I'm sure C++ is fine for a lot of people. It's not so fine for me. I don't like it. I always struggled with it when I worked with with Firefox. Sure, there are. You can go crazy with C as well. So C itself is not a sort of salvation. You can go crazy. You can write crazy C. I'm not sure that curl is always as readable as it should be. So there are passages that we should improve, and functions that are not as clearly written as I think they maybe should be. So that's a constant thing. We develop things. We clean up. We write code. Yeah. So talking about build systems, I would be very hesitant to accept another build system into curl because I don't think it benefits us as a project. You're fine. You can use whatever build system you want when you build curl on your own. I don't see a benefit for curl to accept other build systems. I think we already struggle with the amount of build systems we have, because it makes the more build systems we have, the more different build systems we have to support, because people assume then that they're all equivalent. You can use whichever one you want to use. That means it gives more maintenance for us, so we have to understand all of that and maintain that. And when we have to add a new particular feature, we had to add that in all the different build system stuff. And I think it's complicated enough as it is. It is not plain makefiles. We support, I would say, maybe 4 to 5 different build systems right now. So you could do it with order tools, which I would say is the primary thing. Configure, order make stuff, which is how I build. That's why it's the primary one, because that's one I prefer. That's the regular old, how we do Unix stuff since the dawn of time. And then we have CMake, which we introduced like 15 years ago. Still not up to speed. It is not as complete as the order tool build, so it doesn't have all the features. You can't not build with all the dependencies with it. It doesn't work exactly the same. It works pretty good. And then we have, for example, you can build with Microsoft Visual C on Windows. There's a WinBuild system to do with the make files to run nmake. There are Visual Studio project files that are generated in the build, so you can use Visual Studio projects. What else? Those are the primer ones. There are also some other remainers from the past. They're all at various stages of support for different things. And since we are in that sort of shape, so I prefer not to add more. I prefer we work with those we have and make them as good as possible. And I also try to make sure that, for example, it should be fairly easy to build curl with other build systems. I try to make, for example, when you build curl, you can build all .c files, and all .c files themselves will check should they be used or shouldn't they be used. So you don't even have, you don't have to pick and choose which C files to use. For example, you can build them all, and the curl config will know which ones to if-defs in every file, for example. Well, you can generate Ninja files with CMake. So Ninja is more of a, that replaces make more than the build system. So it's also a matter of definition and terminology, right? So I think you could do CMake -G to generate Ninja files. I haven't tried that with curl. I think exactly it's a build tool, not the actual. Someone could try it and file bug reports if it doesn't work, and then I'd say someone should fix it, and then someone could fix it. Okay, as you can see, you can easily trigger me into some ranting into whatever part of curl we want to talk about, and then I just swallow the hook and go off and then I forget about what we're on the code we're talking about. Is it desynced? Because I have the sync offset the same as I had yesterday. I'm doing a delay of my audio by 500 milli because I seem to be about that. No, exact, and it's really hard to get the sync exact because it seems to be. I'm not sure exactly who to blame, but my system, OBS, or Twitch itself. So I guess we just have to live with it being maybe not totally perfect, but good enough. Kidding. So back to my stuff. So yeah, that was the sscanf for FTP, right? I just wanted to double check now how that pull request is doing the CI jobs. Seems to be pretty fine. Some of the builds are always slower than the others, so lots of the Windows ones, for example. So can't really tell for sure just yet, but looks good. This seems to be a fairly stable, flaky build for now, the Linux quiche one. So I'm going to ignore that. It started the other day, and I think due to how our randomization works in the test suite, it might get stuck on the same problem for a while. Maybe. I haven't really researched that problem. I'm happily ignoring it for now. So closing some RFC tabs. Here's a new bug report that we have received during the stream. Failed sending data to the peer. On Windows. Still worked with 787, so it seems to be a domain. So we can't reproduce it, or maybe we can, but we don't know the site, so it's harder to say exactly how to do this. Fail sending data to the peer. Command line options used. Okay, it makes a put over HTTP 2. gigs. Megs, not gigs. Nothing obvious. Stefan, do you have a large put H2 test in in the PyTest suite. Good. So it's at least not that basic. I mean, put a little bit annoying since put has to be supported by the server, and I think my local setup, I don't have put support in it. I don't have it on the curl site either, and usually in the test, our old test suite, doing a big put was a little bit complicated or annoying. But in the new test suite, it should be doable and easier, and apparently then. So we have a test suite for it, a test case for it. So it means that it works in a lot of CI tests, at least. Okay. It makes you curious what kind of server, for example. It doesn't say which server it uses. I mean, not only the domain name, it doesn't even say which implementation. So, difficult to say what to do about it, right? But something, I have to say something, right? At least I guess, I'm pretty sure, scratch my ear, having my earphones on for a few hours. At least the user is going to expect me to say something, or someone to say something. So this is the official Windows download, I think, from the curl website. Okay, so it's related to HTTP 2 probably. Somehow. At least it is HTTP 2. Hello, Jezer. Okay, I've done this for 2 hours and 10 minutes, so I might not go for much longer, but let's see if we can. Ooh. This is on Windows, which shouldn't matter much because for H2 stuff we do most of the things exactly the same, and fail sending data to the peer, which, yeah, okay, so it's using OpenSSL, which pretty much this output also says it looks like OpenSSL output, and TLS 1.3, nothing weird. H2, latest curl. Putting a zip out of curl. Pretty early on too. If it's 192k into 10 megs. Oh, right. Victor is on it. So let's just sit back on that a little bit and see where that goes. Excellent. I will monitor what happens. Okay, so if we're going to do check back again to this, no further checks. It has these 24 pending ones. I think we suffer from one of those. I think it might be one, this Circle CI, I think, where we don't have that many parallel builds. So some of them are slightly delayed sometimes. So they will take a little bit longer time until they complete. All right, we have this. This is an annoying one. So this bug says that we have a problem in select in this source file because we are doing this. Well, he can fix it by changing that line to that line. And let's see where that is. And for me it's harder because it's a Windows specific problem, and I don't run this on Windows. I don't develop on Windows. I sometimes run something on Windows, but really development on Windows, it's so... I'm not going to start another rant about something else, but I don't do stuff on Windows for my peace of mind. He thinks I should remove our Pol RD band from 233 and 240. That one, the ones we read from. If Pol sets Pol in, curl identifies that as an error because on Windows Pol in equals Pol in RD band. Yeah, I'm reading back on his explanation here. It's some kind of select. It will incorrectly report an error on sockets that have data available to read. The difficult part, of course, is that, yeah, he says that it works like this, and apparently it could also show with some kind of test case here that it would improve how it does things, but this is a Windows only related things. Pol RD band and Pol this is a Pol. This is a man page for Pol. Priority band data can be read, generally unused on Linux. Why do we use it at all? So why is that an error at all? Seems priority band data. I bet if we remove these, oops, wrong branch. This is not going to be visible at all. I just assume that nobody's watching this and actually know much about this particular bit. It seems like a very esoteric thing that I guess we don't use much. So it's a bit for the poll function. So if we do just run 400 tests, of course it won't notice anything because this is a sort of an edge case. I guess we have no test cases for this at all. So it looks like a mistake to yeah, I think it's a mistake to have it there. I mean, I think this is a good fix. So I'm going to create a poll and call it something cryptic like this. Select stop treating an error. Very difficult to understand. It fixes this bug. Reported by whom? By on an anonymous OpenSSL on Zo's GitHub on GitHub. Does not seem to be an error, to be a general error, and on Windows the value for polling is 768 and the value I mean, so the bit is set for poll in as well. So if I check for this, it'll be set when poll in is set. The code is from 2007, yeah. And it's a little bit weird that we haven't sort of experienced any problems, notable problems on Windows. I mean, this is apparently a problem on Windows, but we haven't. It's not a major problem apparently, because then others would have noticed and would have yelled before. So it's a little bit unnerving in that aspect. So changing something that is that old and haven't caused problems before, and now suddenly we say that this is wrong and we shouldn't have. It's a bad. Maybe, or maybe it's just that it's a little. It's a subtle bug. It'll just cause an error on the socket sometimes when it shouldn't, and in this particular case, I think it just made curl not reuse connections when it could. So it'll just waste some connections and be slightly slower than it would have been otherwise. So it might be why we haven't noticed, because people haven't really paid attention on that particular detail on that level on Windows. And since it doesn't behave like this on non-Windows, might have just flown under the radar. Let's call it connection and proxies. I'm not sure. But it also seems pretty harmless, or I mean not too dangerous, because I think this is not an error event. That is not an event in general that it should be. It probably never happens on platforms at all, and this is just this thing. It just triggers on this on Windows because of this peculiarity. It considers the regular input data to be that priority, whatever they called it in the man page. RD band priority dan this is sort of the default data then that's provided on Windows, equivalent to poll in. It says on that one, but not for that. Yeah, but it's certainly not an error, at least. So I think we're good. I think we can do this without the world burning. Let's cross our fingers and hope it becomes a better thing. So I think what's the status for today then? I think I managed to go through some bug things. I managed to get lost in my own pull requests a few times. I did finish up some FTP parser code, remove sscanf, and I merged that HTTP code that no longer uses sscanf. There are some other pull requests pending here. Blah 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 blah. Interrupt. What's this doing? Add support for building against AWS-LC. Oh, so it's another OpenSSL fork. Yeah, it looks like that. That's a CI job for verifying it, right? So what do they need to? OpenSSL is AWS-LC. Anyone watching who has any knowledge or experience with this thing? AWS-LC. Looking at the patch, it doesn't actually do anything different. Yeah, let's just Google it. And since it's an AWS thing, you could imagine that it's pretty real. But yeah, so it's a seems to then basically be a fork of boring SSL. Yeah, a fork. That's nice. So, but what immediately struck me is that they call it a crypto library, not a TLS library, a crypto library. So it's quite a lot more than just crypto, since it does a whole TLS thing. But I wasn't aware of it at all. So it's a C++ library. Talking about C++ again. So they have sort of introduced C++ in that. That's an interesting choice. Yes, so they have converted the boring SSL code into C++. Huh. Yeah, they exactly. They says it's based on code from, so it might not be a straight off fork, but also they didn't. I mean, they didn't do C++, right? Let's check out. I have a boring clone here. This is the boring SSL fork. Yeah, it is C++. Forgot about that completely. So I guess that is why it's C++. And if we check like this same file, I checked. So this says this definitely comes from boring. Okay, Okay. Then the question is, of course, or rather, I think the question is already answered by myself previously. It says next feature window, because I think this might be sort of in the territory. What is a feature and what is a change and what is a bug fix? We only accept bug fixes right now because we're in feature freeze, because we don't open the feature window until after the next release, which is going to be 8.0.0, right? Remember? March 20. Remember? It's pretty fancy too, this, right? Should be. What's expensive? I bet just the sort of the box itself was expensive to make. It looks very fancy. And I like this metal thing they have on the box. I mean, the box was, yeah. So yeah, that's March 20, right? The 25-year thing. So I'll post some details about, links and how to attend that celebration party online in a Zoom meeting at the evening of March 20. I'll post that later. I haven't really worked out the details yet, so I don't have the details to post. But it'll be something. Who knows what? At least it'll be me and my whiskey and me blabbing away as well. If I have any voice left, because I'm going to do the release and the release video earlier on that day. So basically me yapping away as always. Yeah, so that's the which one is that? That's the OpenSSL fork then. So I could live with this. It seems fair. I mean, it's probably, since it's a, I haven't seen this one. Yeah, of course it's going to be like this. I added this CI job just recently because I noticed that they allow this Microsoft C++ code analysis. It's not C++, but it analyzes C as well. Exactly, it's very important to keep the TLS library counter up, right? So, and it's an easy way to get the counter up because it's just another OpenSSL fork. So that's fun. I haven't. Yeah, we should look at that dashboard. It's very important. The curl dashboard. We should not switch to another. No, I don't want to. I have that in another tab, but I don't want to. Okay, then duplicate that tab and bring that tab over there. See, this is the curl dashboard. All the funny graphs that I and mostly me enjoy. Here's here's my favorite graph of curl backends, and you can see this blue thing is TLS libraries supported, and we went down from 14 down to 13 here in early 2022 when we removed Mesalink support. So we could get, so we've been at 14 twice before. It could be the third time we go up to 14. Would be fun, but as I said, we shouldn't do that until after 8.0.0 anyway, just to not rock the boat, so to speak. So let's keep it at 13 for a while more, and maybe I should just get that library, install it locally, and make sure that should I do it now? Should I get it, install it, verify the patch? Could do that. Let's do it. Like, how do we do a new TLS backends 101? I have this directory in my home directory called src for source. This is where I put stuff that I build, or source tree. So I am now going to the GitHub place for the AWS-LC and copied the the clone address for Git for cloning AWS-LC, and now I'm cloning it into my source tree. And I have a fast machine, I have a fast network. This should not be a slow operation, but this is a pretty big size, big chunk of code. All these boring and OpenSSL ones are, and I think it's not only the code, it's actually quite a lot of test cases and stuff like that. And how do we build this thing? CMake, yeah, they switched to CMake for boring. I guess this is, yes, it's a CMake thing. So should we just assume that we could do it exactly the way we do it with boring without reading any documentation? We just copy the boring script. I have this like this. Maybe the boring build is special in that regard that they don't do any releases. So they don't have any. You can't do make install, right? Because it's not made to be installed. It's just weirdly made for Google and nobody else. So I'm just trying. It did not work. Lib unwind generic. No, right. That should. Yes, maybe I should just do like this and just build it with CMake. I think you can do it with Ninja as well. I'm not sure I have Ninja installed on my new machine here, but it seemed to work to build like this at least. So while we're building that, we go back to curl, we go back to the master branch, and we do we can just make a AWS-LC branch, right? So AWS-LC, here's the branch, and we get his pull request into this branch. Boom. I think it has a few days or a month, so we just rebase that on top of current. So there, and we can do an auto reconf to get configure remade, because he patched configure, of course, to detect it. And over here it's done. So it built AWS-LC fine, and like boring, they don't do make install, right? So it means that it doesn't really look like an ape. So if I want to build with curl pointing to an OpenSSL directory, which is an OpenSSL flavor, right? So it doesn't look like an installed OpenSSL because it's not installed, so it doesn't look like a prefix like OpenSSL. So when I do this with boring, I have some I do this. Let's see if it's visible. Build, can't type. Like that. So I make this the prefix looking path. I think it can work because I link these ones. Let me see. So when I build curl with just boring, I do it like this. Again, my pre-made configure scripts. So I do this. I point out the boring lib as a prefix. It could work. It looks like this. Right, so I just need to make sure that there's a similar lib directory that works for AWS-LC. There's no lib directory, so I just make a lib directory. And in the lib directory, I will just provide symlinks for the right libs, and they are in crypto. is it there lib? In boring SSL they are in crypto, libcrypto, and SSL, libSSL. No, they are in build, right? Build crypto, libcrypto. Yeah, so if I symlink them, they should be like crypto, libcrypto, build crypto, libcrypto here. And this is the this is the static ones. Let's try that then. We could also, I can do it like this. I create a new configure line, boring, and call it AWS-LC. And it looks like this. This indicates that it actually uses a shared one in regular build. That was a static build. So let's try this just. Oh right, look at that. It didn't at all use the lib. It uses the lib there. It uses the shared one there. So okay, I was wrong. A little wrong. But this might work. So then let's build with a new. First time ever I actually tried to build with this library. Didn't work. Of course, because something was wrong. Probably because it's... I'm going to just look at the log file. That's really the way to check for configure problems. Is a bad with OpenSSL prefix. But why is it bad? I think it says that when... I think I know. It says that when there's a... the include... Hello, where am I? Such a bad mistake. This is not the same machine. This is another machine. I should just get rid of that tab. That was so stupid. Where is it? Where is it? I didn't even. It was the wrong machine. Okay. What a stupid mistake. It's okay. Let's do it again. Now, let's clone it on the right machine. That's so stupid. But and also the other one, that's my old machine. And since this is a more or less of a clone of the old machine, so they look so similar directory tree-wise. So it's also an easy mistake to do. But yeah, I shouldn't mix the different machines in different tabs. Because it's an easy mistake to do. So okay, I have to do this again then. I copy the build script from my boring. Right. Boring SSL, my build. Let's see here. This is a different one, right? So my build. Yes, this is the one. So this is using Ninja. So do I have Ninja installed? I don't. So then I need to go to my other machine and check that out. And now you can see that other machine. Might actually be a good thing. I'm just going to check what's the name of the Ninja package on Debian. It is called Ninja build. So let's install Ninja build. Could be fun. Yeah, I could maybe do different colors. I mean, the old machine is supposed to not be used anymore. I'm just having it around just to make sure, so that I can do stuff like this, check, so that I can actually make sure that my new machine do things. Okay, stats, blah, 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 because why? Right, I needed, oh, it's there. CMake not found. Ha! Look at that. Talk about build systems. I don't even have CMake installed. Apt install CMake. That shows you how much I use CMake. Let's try this again. Build. So Ninja actually builds stuff faster than CMake and Make in general. I know. Yes, so now it's tainted by CMake. And actually, as you can see, this build script, you'll see that now when it finishes this 496 file, it'll build it again because it builds them both statically and shared. Because of some reason with the build script, I don't remember exactly, but it's convenient to just do that, and then I have that installed and everything is fine. And apparently this is very boring SSL-like. This is exactly what a boring SSL looks like when you build it. And I hadn't done any lib directory, so I run it again. Oh, and it rebuilds everything from start. How convenient. Luckily, I have a fast machine. And, oh, sure, it's not terribly slow. But again, let's switch over to the other one then. So now, I can check my AWS build script. So this might work now when this has built all the way through. So the build script now builds the entire library and makes the source directory look like an install directory, so that I could look like install directory prefix, so that this command line works. This pointing out this. Oh, it uses with SSL. That's the old name. It should said with OpenSSL. It should say. That's the like this. OpenSSL, because it's an OpenSSL flavor. And now it's done, and now we try this command line again. We want to use AWS-LC. Does it work? It seemed to go much further this time. And let's see what it says over. Look at that. AWS-LC. What does LC stand for? LC. Linux. I don't see any explanation in the web page. It's just LC. So let's ignore what it stands for. And if I build this from everything, it runs fast. And let's see what a curl dash is. What does it say? Does it say AWS-LC? Exactly. It's probably just libcrypto LC. It's a little bit boring, I think, but okay. And they have their own cool numbering scheme to confuse everyone even more than otherwise. So it's called 1.4.0. When I did this one, I built from Git. So I mean, boring as they don't have any number at all. And OpenSSL is at version 3.08, right? So okay, seemed to work. Nice. It was, I mean, nice. I don't have much to say about the library. I guess it's fine to just recognize it properly. And why? Right, here's something I talked about a few days ago too, that curl now warns in the version output and the verbose output that this is actually a debug enabled version, simply because a debug enabled one has some back doors pretty much that can make it do things that you don't want a production one to do, to have enabled. Pretty much you can control it with a bunch of environment variables to do funny things that it shouldn't be able to do otherwise for testing and debugging purposes. So unless you want to have magic testing and debugging things, you shouldn't really run this in production. So hence the warning. So okay, this looked like you could use AWS-LC pretty good. Once this is in, interrupt, configure, yeah. Looking good. So let me do this. I am going to say that it looked fine. All the and here even has a see a job for it, right? Did we see that go through? I've tried to nag the GitHub people about this tiny list. So when you have 100 and like this, 132 successful, why do they have to make this list like this? So we have to scroll and scroll and scroll, and it's really hard also to find the particular one. But here we can see it there. Very often I only want to see these 6 failing, but I still have this really tiny and hundreds of entries in the list, and I have to scroll around in it to find it. Annoying. Could be better. Okay, but that's good. I'm a fan. It's pretty nice. Who did this? Jim King. Good to get a patch from the king. I'm in favor. So yes. Thumbs up. Not gonna merge it now though. So I'm gonna merge it after the next release. Yeah, I think one of the problems with GitHub is that their focus is not on the simple stuff anymore. They want to do, the code spaces. They want to run the AI stuff. They have gone beyond just hosting code. They want to host your entire development and do more development stuff, which makes them sort of get their focus done on other things that I don't particularly care much about. At least that's a theory of mine. So I'm going to stop this stream now because I'm at 2:56. So if I stop now, I can go on under 3 hours. I think it was pretty productive. I got to show you a lot of stickers, and I could show you my whiskey at least twice. So I mean, what else do we need on a Thursday? So thanks for following along, and I'll do this again. It's pretty fun and actually pretty productive. And I got to try another OpenSSL fork. Yeah, the whiskey testing is for March 20, right? So March 20, we do this celebration stream meeting online in my evening. I'm in Europe, so I'll work it out. I'll get to details later. There's still many days left, so we get to talk again. So thanks for dropping by. This was fun. Thanks for chatting and asking and talking and taking me on adventures. And see you later on another stream somewhere. Bye.